Golly, I saw.
Good argument.
I saw Jimmy the other day. He's still living.
We used them a lot.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to be out with us.
Oh, we're there.
I just saw him in his truck.
Well, it's such a wonderful guy.
Joe, you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, but don't I get to bang the gavel? All right, I just wanted to, and we'll do the roll call, and then we'll do the pledge of allegiance. Oh, that one. All right. Folks, if I could have your attention, we're going to call the meeting to order. And if we could have a roll call, please.
Yes. Director Coverdell?
Here.
Vice President Michelson?
Here.
Director Cook?
Here.
Director Casper?
Here.
And President
Here.
Reynolds?
All right, could you lead us?
Sure.
Hand over heart. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
We should add a clause at the end and bring us rain.
Yes.
Hey.
I think the president ought to do a rain dance.
Well, I think it's a group effort. I don't think you can do a solo.
That would be embarrassing.
Do we have a proposal to ban the filling swimming pools?
Yes, it's in our drought plan.
Oh. But we haven't adopted it.
Correct. Correct.
Oh.
I don't have, do we have any public comments? All right. And we'll move on to our consent. Do we have anyone who would like to pull anything from the consent calendar?
Mr. President, I reviewed the financial, the accounts payable and the petty cash and the credit card statements, and I found them to be in order.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, I'd just like to make a comment about the warrant list. That I've asked for some background on the warrant, which pays for this facility as we've been using it. And I just want the board to know that I've asked to see a copy of the School District Civic Center Act, because I would like to know how they come up with the number of $600 a session.
Oh, they are charging us.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
interesting. Now, we have donated our facility, or when the Harbor District, or who used to meet in our facility? Did we charge them?
We have a charge.
How much?
It was very minimal. I want to say like $150.
Yeah.
Good point, thanks for bringing that up.
So if there's anything to report, I'll report next time.
All the more pressure. How's it going, Dale? We get, how's our boardroom going?
Sorry about that.
No, that's
No,
okay.
no, thank you, that was good information, thank you.
So anything else anybody wants to comment on the consent calendar?
I move we approve the consent calendar as presented.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, seconded. Can we all say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Only with Joanne's permission.
Yes, well, you notice I looked to her. I went for her guidance. Pat, you're pretty much out of a job. I'm sorry about that, but
Oh, don't get carried away.
So we just got to get Joanne out of jail.
I'm not going to touch that one. All right, does anybody have a meeting or a director comment?
I had a comment.
Yes.
I think the county is in the process now of doing an analysis of Highway 1 and 92. It's going to be a safety study. I think they're going to be looking for somebody from our group to represent CCWD, and I'd like to volunteer, if that's okay.
I'd like to concur with that volunteer.
You have more time than I do, yeah.
Great.
Okay,
Do you have any
you're
more
on.
information about what they're looking for?
It's a study. They're looking at different ways to make, better mobility on the coast side. I mean, everybody knows that Highway 1, especially on weekends, is a nightmare. But what can the county do about that? The
It's
city.
easy. Schedule cloudy days on the weekends and sunny days on the weekday.
I love that.
Seems
It's
reasonable.
easy.
Is 92 a state? It's not a state, is it a county highway?
It's actually, 92 is a state
It
highway.
is a state.
Yeah. And that's also part of the problem too. You've got a lot of truck traffic. We've got the landfill, we've got the quarry, there's big trucks, always on that road during weekdays. And, until they actually put a climbing lane in on the far side, it's gonna probably stay like that. But it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
PUC's dead body.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's great that you
Yeah,
volunteered to
thank
do
you
that.
for doing that, and,
I would encourage you to encourage them to, I wrote a letter to Jerry Hill. Are we okay to discuss this?
Briefly.
Yeah. I wrote a letter to Jerry Hill. He was looking for things that we could do statewide that would really promote better living conditions for Californians. And I told him that I thought we needed to promote the idea that highways are actually, when they go through neighborhoods, are neighborhood streets. And that the important thing is to slow down and give your neighbor a break. Because I think the only issue that we have on our highways is people think they should drive 55 miles an hour. And on the weekends especially, on Highway 1, just unrealistic. And it's really sad, if you're on the east side of Highway 1 on the weekend, trying to cross, I mean, you're taking your life in your own hands. There are no overpasses, we have no underpasses. There's really, minimal traffic lights, so the facilities are really difficult. And I think the problem is, every third car thinks they're gonna make it to San Francisco in 20 minutes. And I think that's really falls short.
Well, I think it helped when they put in a lighted poplar, because at least now there's a safe place to cross. And there is an underpass for the bike route, at Pilocitos,
Right.
but there needs to be more.
Well, see, that's all city stuff, which you took care of for us, but we're talking about the county unincorporated areas where we really get burned. And it gets difficult up that way. But
Okay.
thanks for volunteering.
Sure.
yeah, thank you. Let's move on to looking at 6A, which is the SRT proposal. Dave, are you doing a preamble?
Yes. I'll let Joe chime in if he has any comments on this. Hazen's tank is a redwood tank. It's in El Granada near the intersection of San Juan and Ferdinand Avenues. I don't know if that's a familiar spot, but it was moved onto that site probably in the 60s. 60s, early 70s.
When El Granada Tank 2 was installed.
So that would have been mid-60s.
Yeah.
So it got moved to that site, and it's the role it plays there is to help stabilize the pressure and to meet peak demands in some of those higher elevation areas in El Granada. We took a look at whether we've been talking about replacing Hazen's tank since the 2006 CIP, and we keep pushing it back. We took a look at whether it would be possible to eliminate the tank now that we had the El Granada pipeline in place, and the conclusion that we came to with Jim Teeter's assistance was that we wouldn't be able to meet the peak demands in that area. So we do need to replace it. It's made of redwood. If you go up there, you can see it dripping, and we're just concerned that it's a seismic risk and a water quality risk, and it needs to be replaced. We need a design for this, and looking around, we looked at some alternatives. Joe called around various agencies. We were looking at alternatives like bolted steel. I guess the two basic ones are bolted steel and welded steel that we looked at. Seems like a pretty small thing. It ought to be a pretty straightforward project. We visited a really nice installation close to home in Montera. The schoolhouse tanks recently completed, Montera recently completed the replacement of the schoolhouse tanks. They're each 100,000 gallons, is that right? Those are welded steel tanks, really nice looking installations. I said, well, the folks that designed that installation ought to be able to do ours pretty well. And so that firm is SRT Consultants. Tanya Urofsky and Mark Quady are here from SRT to introduce themselves and answer any questions you might have. They've given us a proposal for designing the Hazen's tank replacement and preparing the contract documents for us. The total cost, including tasks 1, 4, and 6, that's it, 1, 4, and 6 in their proposal would be $65,000. So we're recommending that the board authorize the staff to contract with SRT to design the Hazen's tank replacement.
Please.
The biggest question that I had on this tank is there any reason we wouldn't want it to be bigger? I mean, basically, we have a 75,000 gallon tank. I mean, is there any reason we wouldn't want a 200,000 gallon
Yes.
tank, or?
Yes, the reason for that is that whereas it's needed for peak demands, mainly in the end of the summer, the rest of the year it doesn't do much, and so you don't want a large tank because now you'll have a large amount of stagnant water. So that's the primary reason. 75,000 gallons is a nice size for that. You know, it does during the peak demands. It does drop down some feet, but not much. 4 or 5 feet, whatever, and then it goes back up. So anything bigger would be ludicrous, and it would be probably a little bit more expensive.
Can I ask one more question?
Please.
What's the rough guess of the cost of a 75,000 gallon tank?
Well, the old adage of $1 per gallon doesn't work for, there's a economics of scale for that. So for the smaller tank, I don't really know. It's a couple of $100,000,
I bought
maybe
one.
$300,000.
I bought one yesterday, and it was $200,000.
Coincidentally.
We have it in the CIP at a total cost of 500,000.
Good.
Well, I bought a fiberglass.
So
300 would be the permitting, so that's
No,
not
no,
right.
no, I bought a fiberglass one,
Yeah, we think that'll do it.
and they're cheaper.
The other, that's a good point, the permitting. If you don't have a larger tank, we could fly under the radar well, not totally under the radar, but we won't have as many permitting issues.
And it's a challenging site as well. It's a steep hill up there. This is is a fee parcel that the district owns. That's a little tiny piece within. It's right on the boundary of what's now GGNRA, and within it's sort of a little inholding in Sterling's parcel in El Granada, and we have an easement through Sterling's parcel to get up to it. That's pretty steep. So it's not a site. It's not a very easy site to work. There'll be some site challenges in replacing the tank. It'll be an interesting project. You can't just drive right up to it. It's not that accessible.
Can I make one more?
Please.
I'd like to recommend, there's a local guy, Don Baldwin, who is a wood recycler. Oh, I'm sorry, did I screw you up?
I want to do it. No. Yeah,
No conflict of interest.
clearly there's a value in wood, yes.
Yeah, I'd
So-
like to be sure that wood is recycled, not
We will.
not
We
chipped
will-
up in
We
a
will
chipper
research this
or
and put this in the contract,
turned into mulch.
but we have to be careful about conflict of interest, et cetera. But there are a lot of people that covet that wood.
Oh, yeah.
You can't get wood like
Let's,
this
No,
anymore.
let's
that's-
sell it, I mean.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
haven't
that's-
that would probably that would
That's
be the best idea.
first growth, clear heart, it's as good as it gets. I mean, it's a whole category in and of itself.
So it's
Tank
up,
wood.
it's up for bid, you're invited.
Yeah, I know.
We'll dispose of it appropriately.
Yeah, one board at a time, I can see it now. I got 3. Any comments from our,
Tanya, do you want to?
can you cut us if it's there?
I'd be happy answering questions. We're honored that you called on us and appreciate the work. We'll do good work for you, but I would be happy to answer any questions. I think the $200,000 number was a good number with a bare tank, no occurrences. You start piling in interest, anything that the district needs and access to the tank, it will be a $500,000 tank at the end of the, unfortunately, that's the cost of doing business here. That's what we found out. The tanks next door turned out to be $5 per gallon.
Oh, mhm.
With earthwork and retaining walls, not just the tank, of course, but the whole project.
Tanya, could you explain the difference between the 65,000? What are the options? Because you have the total of 80,000,
Yeah.
and then we keep discussing 65. So what are the options that we're we're not counting?
We offered the district for consideration mixer recommendations, coordination with the Department of Public Health, and support with permitting. Fortunately for this board, you have an expert here who knows more about mixing probably than we do. So he's gonna do it himself, and I think the district has taken on the permitting internally. So those are the tasks that were excluded. We just offered separate tasks that the district can pick and choose.
Okay.
In addition to the design. And so those were, so we're doing the design, cost estimating, and bid support for
Okay.
$65,000.
Okay.
We really appreciated that approach, because it lets us say, well, we can do this, and this, and we'd like SRT to do these other things.
No, it seems very good, and I'm glad that our staff is able to do some of this stuff in partnership with the consultant, so I think that's an excellent way to go. Would you be willing to humor me, and if I throw you some information on a fiberglass tank, would you consider that?
If the district was willing,
If Joe's
we would
willing?
absolutely consider.
I'd have to look into that. I'm not that comfortable with a fiberglass tank. It lends itself to vandalism and shotgun shells and stuff like that.
We are on the coast after all. Gene, I see you laugh. We are on the coast after all.
Naturally. But of course, I've been wondering what to do with my Sunday afternoons. I had no idea I was supposed to be shooting at things. Huh.
Those elk-piercing arrows.
That could be it. Huh. There you go.
We're really looking forward to working with you guys, by the way.
Thank you,
Wanted to let
likewise.
you know that. Yeah, we're pleased to, we know you have a lot of experience locally, and so we think that will be a real advantage for our district.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Move to approve the contract with SRT?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Good, okay. Joanne, can we have a,
Sure. Director Coverdale?
Aye.
Vice President Marcuson?
Yes.
Director Smith?
Aye.
Director Foster?
Aye.
President
Aye.
Rice?
Unanimous, how about that? That's an unusual board, isn't it?
okay, with that, do we need a break? All right, so our next topic is EKI proposal. Oh, the Main Street Bridge. This would be skipping, never mind.
Oh, we could build a bridge for $241,000.
Not a Redwood?
Out of Redwood.
I know where to get some.
A great idea.
Ready?
Please.
Okay. Well, moving right along, we have a little more complex project, which we talked about at our last board meeting. At the last board meeting, I brought a proposal to look at alternatives for replacing a pipeline on the Main Street Bridge, including putting it on the bridge, and the board redirected us into a focus on an alternative alignment that would avoid the bridge. And it seems as though, given the results of last week's election, the future of the bridge is a little more uncertain, as is the schedule for its rehabilitation, replacement, whatever is going to happen to it. And so that seems like a good direction for the district to go. As we agreed last time, we asked EKI to give us a design proposal. Steve and Jeff Tarantino are here tonight from EKI. They've provided us with this really comprehensive design proposal. This is a little bit more expensive than designing a 75,000 gallon tank. And there's a lot of, as you can see from the cost estimate, there's quite a bit of effort in biological resource evaluation because we're working in the creek. Unfortunately, since we did our El Granada pipeline replacement project, the Department of Fish and Wildlife has basically decreed that nobody will go under a creek without a lake and stream bed alteration agreement. So that had to be factored into the effort. So we have a proposal from EKI to design this alternative alignment. And as the board requested, they also gave us a kind of a back of the envelope cost estimate. which you have as attachment B. I think I said $1 million, I just threw out the number of $1 million. Their figure was a little bit higher, but it's not that far off when you consider that there's a pretty substantial contingency included in this estimate. So, you know, not that far off. But this is, given the permitting involved and some of the other issues we'll have to face in going under the creek, it's not an inexpensive project. Now, what this does not take into account, the cost estimate doesn't take into account the fact that all of the pipe within the block of Purissima, have I got the right street? All of the pipe within that block of Purissima from the cul-de-sac out to Mill Street is on our replacement schedule anyway. So there'd be some offset from what would otherwise be the cost of that project. The other thing, on the other side of the ledger, the other thing that's not included here is the cost of obtaining whatever easements we need. And those would probably mostly be from Menitas. They're right up against the creek. And we had some preliminary discussion with him, but that's about it. So we haven't really gotten in there and talked to him. One of the first things we need to do is decide exactly how close to the creek we can go to minimize any impact on that property. So we are recommending that the board authorize the staff to contract with EKI for design of the Main Street Bridge pipeline replacement at a cost not to exceed $241,000. And we're talking about putting this package out to bid if everything goes well and we can get the permits by somewhere around March. That's a pretty ambitious, I think that's a pretty ambitious schedule.
So
that would,
the design part would take between now and putting the bid packet together between now and March?
yes. Well, at the beginning, the schedule ends at the end of January. So we'd be putting it out in February, beginning of March. So we basically have about a 6 month, a little over a 6 month design schedule. Our experience with Department of Fish and Wildlife has been that that will be the shorter part of the overall schedule. I think the critical path for us will probably go through that permitting as opposed to the design.
Can you explain that a minute? Are you saying the Fish and Game will be the slowest party to approve this?
Has been.
That would be.
past.
I think if you can do this in less than 2
Right.
years with Fish and Game, you're doing really well.
Which brings up temporary pipeline. That's,
Oh, Jesus.
The temporary pipeline. We're going to, we're going to ask ECAD to give us a little bit of assistance with designing the connections for the temporary pipeline. I think at the north end, the connections for a temporary pipeline will be the ones that ultimately this alternative pipeline would start from. And on the south end, it'll be a little bit different, but I think both of those sets of connections would be a permanent feature of our pipeline, so that if ever in the future we had a problem with the creek crossing, we could put something across
what kind
whatever
of
bridge
reception
the
did you get from
city.
the city? You did discuss this with the city?
I was going to make a presentation to the council on June 3rd. When I talked with the interim city manager, we decided that given the fact that the outcome of the election wouldn't be known until June 4th, and the future of the bridge was kind of up in the air, that'd probably be better to wait. So I'm tentatively scheduled to talk to the council on June 17th.
Oh, okay.
And I think closing that sidewalk for our temporary pipeline to be there for some unknown amount of time is kind of an unpopular idea. I don't think we'll have any problem in putting in the temporary connections and being ready on short notice to quickly put in the bypass if we need to. And I need to talk to the city to prepare them for that possibility. And then I think that we'll basically cross our fingers, acknowledging the risk that that old pipeline poses. And there may be some other things we can do to improve our ability to detect a problem if it happens, as opposed to waiting for somebody to call the fire department when they hear the water rushing out or
Well,
something like
given the
that.
threats we've received from the mayor, I mean, do we really want to just kind of wait for it?
On behalf of the Regional Water Quality
Yeah.
Control Board, well, that's a known risk, so we'll have to, I think we can kind of bring that discussion back after we talk with the city. But that is a risk that pipeline has always presented for us.
Oh.
And we're thinking, the main thing we need to do is push forward with some kind of a replacement.
Yeah, go ahead.
Has anybody estimated the cost of the valving in the temporary line?
Yes.
How much?
Yeah, we have. It's about, the overall cost of the parts, including the 300 feet of plastic pipes, about $30,000.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So it's fairly inexpensive.
And Andrini gave us an estimate of $30,000 to put the connections in.
Cool.
So given the rather fragile nature of our existing pipeline and the pretty devastating consequences of a break in the stream, will Fish and Game perceive that as some kind of an urgency project that they would move it through so they don't end up being responsible for holding us up?
They would never be responsible.
That's right.
Facility.
Yeah. What were you thinking?
I don't know, have a momentary
Momentary
lapse
lapse.
of senility.
And I'm not sure urgency is in their vocabulary in my experience, unless you're a fish, which we are.
Steelhead.
Yeah.
My take on Fish and Game is that they feel you have to do it, then all the more reason you'll be motivated to follow every nuance of their guidelines to study the hereditary lineage of each creature there in great detail.
Tag them and release them.
Oh, no, you can't. You have to study them. You should follow.
Don't be looking for a free fishing license on the tag.
No, rats.
So, yeah,
They
we'll-
can see through it.
We'll need to do a significant amount of work before we can even approach Fish and Game to tell them where the pipeline's gonna be and what we're gonna do. What trenchless method, what jacking method we're gonna use to go into the creek, things like that.
Gentlemen, you've done these recently. Is this are we being too heavy-handed with Fish and Game?
No, I mean, I think we recognize that Fish and Game is gonna pose a significant challenge to the progress of the project. And so, we have on our team a firm called WRA. They are an environmental firm who is familiar with working on the coast. We actually have a long-standing relationship with WRA. They're our go-to biological resources folks. And so what the approach we're gonna take is to make sure that we have a well-documented, complete application, get that into Fish and Game, because WRA's experience with that is when you give them the complete application, there's always a chance that Fish and Game will not comment after 90 calendar days, and at that point, I guess there's a provision called opt-law. Basically, the permit application is effectively approved. So, WRA's experience is you give them all the right information, make it as complete, and give them what they know they would want. That helps.
What's the estimated budget for a firm like this?
Their budget is, so they are about $16,000.
That's a bargain.
In the consulting world, that's a relative bargain, yes.
We're benefiting from that. WRA has experience with Fish and Game throughout the state, but also they have a lot of experience here on the coast. Yeah, they're one of City of Half Moon Bay's preferred consultants, as I understand it.
Could I ask questions?
Yeah, please.
I noticed in here, one of the assumptions is that you're gonna have a 20-foot buffer. You're gonna step back 20 feet and bore.
Correct.
Have you considered, well, I guess the question would be, is it gonna add a lot of cost if that buffer is increased?
So when talking with Leslie from WRA, she says typically the buffer for a private, if you were a private individual, that buffer would be 50 feet on either side, so it would add about 60,
Right.
60 feet. Incrementally for the cost of the pipe and everything, I don't think it's talking about a lot of dollars, because you're still digging large pits, jacking, it adds an extra 60 feet, which in terms of our length is a good percentage, but it's not significant. Leslie's experience is that because we're a public agency, they see that as a better conservative agency, and will allow upwards of 20 feet. So we're talking 20 feet from where vegetation is now. So if you're looking at Manias' property, we're not exactly sure where the top of the bank is just due to the overgrowth, but we're taking the edge of the vegetation and going 20 feet onto his property from there. And then same thing on the opposite side, Chris will go 20 feet from the top of, basically from the edge of pavement in a cul-de-sac. So
Right. Yeah, I wasn't so much concerned about Fish and Wildlife as much as Coastal Commission. Because that's where that whole ESHA buffer starts to.
Yeah, and again, I think, Leslie was considering what she would expect the coastal commission is gonna, or the coastal development firm will expect, so that's part of their scope is to assist the district with the coastal development permit.
Well, it would be the city of Half Moon Bay is the permitting authority. They'll issue the coastal development permit, but that'll be appealable to the coastal commission.
That's right.
How much comfort do you have that 6 to 10 feet under the bottom of the stream is going to be frangible material that you can jack through?
Yeah, that's our best guess in talking with, so as we put together a proposal, we brought out a construction firm, Pacific Boring. We're currently working with them on our project in San Mateo, so that's why I asked them to come out and take a look at it. Based on Clay Bennett's experience, he felt that was reasonable. We also talked with Bennett Engineering, Trenches Engineering, who's a specialty engineering firm. We're going to have assist us with this due to the sensitivity of the crossing. And that feels like the right buffer to assume, but we will verify that with the geotechnical investigation. Once we really see what the soils are like and have a good sense, it may get a little bit deeper, and that's part of the reason why we have 30% contingency in our construction process.
But if there's hard rock under there, it's going to change things significantly more expensive, correct?
It could. We're not expecting hard rock, but yeah, that's why the geotech will happen first. That way, we're not spending a bunch of design dollars on something that we find out is much more expensive or much more complicated than any of us expected.
If it turns out to be cobbles as opposed to like an alluvium, then we have to go deeper, because it'll be much more transmissive
From the stream.
stratum.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
And that'll influence the type of jacking that we do.
Right.
We're going to look at kind of standard, just open face cut jacking, but we're also looking at microtunneling, which the microtunneling is a little bit better of a method when you're going under a creek, so that less opportunity for water to get into the casing and then eventually flow out the excavation. So because it's kind of it's a closed conduit versus the open face jacking, which is exactly what it sounds like. There's a guy down there and he's watching the soil get dug out. So
We don't like open space. That's all alluvial. It's gonna be a cake. We'll go through that in a minute.
yeah, so that's why we in cost estimate, we provided a range just
perfect soil
to be verified
second.
during our investigation in the initial phases.
So that means we'll probably save that 30% contingency because it'll be so easy to bore under.
We will do
You've got
everything we
this on
can to
tape,
optimize
right?
the cost.
That's it, thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Chris?
Gets us off the bridge, and this is the cost of getting us off the bridge, and unfortunately, our customer's gonna have to bear it, but I don't think there's an alternative.
I totally agree. I think it's a safer way to go.
I agree. I think that moving quickly, if we were really able to, and how long is this project? If we put this out to bid in March, we'd be doing this in June or July next summer?
Yeah, we were assuming that it'd be late May, early June.
Okay.
And then the interesting thing is getting the pipe in the ground really isn't the hard part. It's going to be digging the jacking and receiving pits. I mean, that's going to take a better part of a few weeks to dig those and then backfill them.
So a question I would ask, could we run the street pipe first? It seems like that's something that we've put pipe in the ground many times. There shouldn't be much permitting issues for that. Couldn't that work be done ahead so that we weren't waiting In other words, the jack and bore would be the last part of the project, finishing it up rather than having that done at the end or middle of the project. So in other words, that design would happen quite quickly. That could be done as a contract that's then done, and then the jack and bore connects to that, and the project's online faster.
Well, my only concern with that approach is the additional, you'd have two mobilizations. I mean, ultimately.
Oh, you think it'd be the same contractor for the street work?
Yeah,
as it would?
Yeah, what typically happens in these is that the bore and jack is actually done by a specialty subcontractor, whereas a general pipeline contractor actually comes in and manages the entire work. A company like Pacific Boring does not do excavation. They don't build the jacking and receiving pits. They rely on the pipeline contractor to actually build the jacking and receiving pits for them. The other thing is, considering where we're going, I would like to see that the jacking get done first. We make sure we don't have any changes, and just we don't get pipe in the ground on Prisma and then something changes with the jacking. I'd like to see the jacking happen first. So, yeah, but the reality is you're going to get a company like J&B or Ranger Pipeline or somebody that will be the general on the job, and then they'll hire Pacific Boring or Cross Country, any number of trenchless firms that just really look at getting in the hole, putting in the casing, and then getting out, and then the pipeline contractor comes in and does the piping.
Okay. Any other comments or questions, gentlemen? All right, we have a motion?
I'll move.
All right.
Second.
Joanne?
Not clear what that credit challenge was about.
That's
Somebody's gonna do
to
it.
authorize staff to contract for the design of the Main Street Bridge. Did you cover that?
Aye, cautiously.
President Michelson?
Yeah, only because the contract says up to, it doesn't mean it has to be the full amount, but up to.
Got it? Noted.
Aye.
Director Flint?
Aye.
Director Glassberg?
Aye.
President
Aye.
Rice?
Well, again, I just want to say thank you very much. We really do appreciate the opportunity to continue to work with the district. We're excited and ready to get started on this.
I appreciate you taking our redirection at the last meeting to scrap our study of this project and to roll it into a plan on this that looks like it will get it in place in a timely manner, so.
No problem. Glad we were able to jump for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great night. Thanks for coming.
All right. Agenda. We have agenda.
Excuse me, Greg. We made a great decision tonight.
Yeah.
I think it's an improvement that's, and I want to thank, Dave, I want to thank you for
Moving quickly.
not only identifying something that could be a significant challenge to the district, but bringing it to us in a way and being responsive to our want to resolve what we know is a known hazard in a timely and efficient manner. So thank you very much, Dave. I appreciate that. Joe, I know you get credit for supporting him in doing that.
I think also, the voters of Half Moon Bay have spoken about the bridge. And so I think that makes this look even more timely and reasonable, because it's back to who knows what, right? So it's, and we need to protect the citizens, I think. Water supply is critical, and the creek's critical.
It's a critical line.
It is.
Yeah, and being tied up in the bridge adds a lot of challenge to us.
Might make it easier for the city if we're off the bridge.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Dave, we come to proposed fiscal year.
Good night, guys, have a great
Good
night.
night, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We have a fiscal budget proposal.
As we do every year, starting in, whenever we start, I think it's March, we present the proposed budget at every meeting to provide the board and the public an opportunity to ask questions, to raise issues. We have our Proposition 218 hearing scheduled at a special meeting on June 24th, 7 p.m. So that'll be another opportunity for the public to come in and give the board input on the proposed rate increase and on the budget. The budget that you see here is the same one we've presented a couple of times before. I mentioned in my staff report that we'll be doing I have to back up a little bit and say that it is modified a bit by the inclusion of the new position that the board approved at the last meeting, so we put that into the budget. As I recall. That doesn't change the financing plan because it was in another part of it. That funding was already in the financing plan. So for the June 24th public hearing, we'll talk a little bit more about the budget. I'm going to come in with a revision, I think a revision of the CIP. We left some things, relatively minor things out of the CIP, and I think we need to do some adjustment and pushing of things around to accommodate this Main Street Bridge project, because clearly we haven't accounted for the timing or the cost of that quite in the way we now see it happening. So if there are any questions about the budget, we could talk about them now. We have so far received 9 protests under the Prop 218 process.
That's on the low side.
That's on the low side. Generally, our total by the public hearing is in the range of 20 or so. There's no guarantee that somebody won't sit out in front of the El Granada post office with a petition or something, as they did one year. But I think most people feel that with the current water supply situation, that it's probably good to support your local water district.
Dave, I'd like to take this moment. I would like, and I'd like to discuss this with the board, whether we can have a response letter that merely says thank you for your concerns and correspondence to the district, that goes to the people who give us an address going back, that acknowledges what they said but doesn't agree or disagree, but acknowledging basically that we got their letter and we appreciate their input. Something you'd be comfortable with, or?
We haven't done that. We haven't done that in the past. Our feeling in general has been that going beyond just an acknowledgement of receipt could be taken the wrong way by some people. They have exercised their right to protest in the process that we follow, and there are folks we get a letter from each year, and we're certainly not going to make them any more comfortable with our rate increase. So it's not something, it isn't something we've done.
I understand. I was just thinking if we said, thank you for your correspondence, it will be presented to the board at our board review meeting. Says, hey, this goes to the board and the board's listening. And the reason I bring it up is I think that if we do get 20 people writing against it, it isn't the majority that stops the process. But I think it's important to those people that they know they're heard. They took the time.
We present all the protest letters to the board at the public hearing.
Yeah.
And so they get incorporated into the public record. But if the board wants us to provide some response, that's something we could do.
For the record, I read every single letter, and I have in the 13 years that I've been here, and I think the process has worked well for us. Our policy is they're included in the board packages, so each and every one of us do receive them, and I think to go beyond that, I think things are fine the way they are, and certainly the opportunity, if the letter isn't enough, they have the opportunity to come to our rate hearing.
Come in person.
And come in person and look each and every one of us in the eye. So I think the process is fine the way it is.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good.
I think it's a good suggestion, and it's interesting to consider it, but I really appreciate when people come personally.
You know, that would be my choice. I would totally second that, but since they don't,
But there's a reason why.
Gina's here.
I think there's a reason why. And I think the reason why is that people realize that we're a very open board. I mean, for all the years I've been involved in, I've never seen us ever close anybody out or push anybody out. And I think that also it's hard, you know, no one wants to spend more money. It's a difficult time, you know, it's still hard times. But I think that, you know, when you look around the state of California right now and you look at what people are beginning to do to try to acquire adequate water supply for their communities, you know, it's a big job, and it's a really expensive job this year. And everyone's up against the battles that we're up against, and these aren't easy decisions. And I think that if it's enough of an imposition on somebody's bill to really need to protest it, that it's really important for them to rally, you know, get a good support, and come in and really voice the opinion. And I think we've always listened. I've seen us make a lot of amends. And I think creating more paperwork for the staff, they have enough jobs, and we have some really serious things that we have to get accomplished.
I just want to make sure that okay, I'm good with that.
I think you're inviting people on the TV
Yep.
to come down and please share with us. As president of this group, means a tremendous amount. And I think that makes people feel welcome. I think everyone on this board is accessible, you know, living in the community. And but I really appreciate the fresh idea.
Okay, well, thanks for the feedback. Good idea, let's move on. Dave, what other things should we consider with the budget?
There's no need to consider anything tonight. On June 24th, I'll make more of a public presentation on the budget, as I usually do, outlining where the money comes from, where the money goes. And we'll review again the financing plan and the rate increase. And the board then has the opportunity, having opened the public hearing and heard the public and closed the public hearing, to decide the rate increase you want to approve and then approve the budget.
Do you have any thoughts on what impact the Main Street Bridge replacement, how you would shuffle our capital improvement projects to accommodate that? Would it be kind of more of a priority shift, or?
I think it'll be the Feldman factor.
Yes, there is the Feldman factor.
But that's something I have to sit down and work with.
Okay.
What to move some of the money and assumptions around. And as I've said, if we go into a mandatory rationing regime, we'll have to do some further pushing of the resources around and deferring of projects. The Main Street Bridge probably wouldn't be at the top of our list for deferral. Is one we want to. I think we've appropriately put a pretty high priority on that project.
I've got a few suggestions if we get to that point.
Push AMRs out to 2050.
How did I know that was coming?
Glenn? Just a comment about
Oh,
the budget
please.
before we move on. I think it's really great that the budget continues to come back, giving the public an opportunity to at least know it exists and us to give it some consideration. But I'm wondering if there's a necessity to publish all of this every time. If we get it the first time,
They reuse it each month.
are you really reusing? I mean, is it coming back the same from our last packets?
No.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is this is important. The first couple of pages are really important. We can keep our originals on the other, and then maybe just a summary of any changes, which you do already. A summary of any changes in your staff report would potentially save a lot of staff time on paper. Just a suggestion.
We would like to get to the point where that all comes to you electronically, and you can look at it in the meeting electronically. there have been directors who, yeah, who want everything printed out, but that is something, we've talked about that. It is a big deal.
Any idea when we can get back to the TV?
Isn't that coming up in our next
That's
report?
coming up.
Well, let's move on.
Let's talk
Do
about
we don't have everybody close on this? All right, so let's move on to the general manager's report.
Okay.
Yeah, especially since we're paying that.
Well, in deference to Director Coverdell, I'll start with two.
Thank you.
Administration building remodeling project status. This is something we're working on every day, literally every day. And the building permit, the city's not issued the building permit yet. The plans have been approved by the water department. That happened very quickly. The water department turned those plans around in a heartbeat. Yeah.
I hope you put a note, see how efficiently this agency works.
Right, the fire department has, I believe, has conditionally approved the plans, and we're still waiting for the city to issue the building
I think
permit.
they outsourced it to India, didn't they?
We, as of today, have worked out the contractors, the construction contractors' concerns with the terms of our public works contract. So we've been working on that.
What was that about?
Pardon?
Well, I don't understand what that was.
Well, we sent this is a $150,000 job, which is a relatively small contract, and we sent the contractor our, I think, what is it, about 75 or 80-page public works contract. So it took him a few days. It took him a little bit to work through that. And he came back with some very reasonable and really limited requests for changes, which Pat Miyake and I discussed this morning and worked through. So we're good with all of that. We're working on some final, details of the electrical plan, so we don't have to make sure that we have the outlets and everything in the right place for those nice monitors, and we don't have to do all that wireless stuff again and have those lag times and things. So we're working on all of those details, the AV system, the electrical, the data, the phone system, all of that. All of those things are in progress, and the builder is very anxious to get started. He wants to come in and he wants to start before the contract. No, we can't do that. But he's ready to go basically any day. Next Thursday, thanks to the efforts Gina has put in, we're going to do something that we've needed to do for a long time but couldn't with the building occupied, and that is to fumigate the building. We've got some termite problems that can only be solved by fumigating the building. And so next Thursday they're going to tent the building and the whole thing, including the carport, and fumigate it, and that'll be done be all done by Saturday, I think, Sunday. So that on Monday the contractor will be able to get in there if we have the building permit. Next week we are moving everything out of the building into our storage containers. So the start of construction is imminent. Builder said he wanted to be done by the end of July. I think that was a little bit ambitious, but we're working through the lighting. Pat Delgavio told me today that the lighting fixtures have about a 4-week delivery, which should put us right about in the right spot, at the end of July. So it's all coming together.
And what's the city saying about a timeline for getting the permit?
4 weeks ago, they said it would take 2 weeks.
Excellent. It's going well then, just about as expected then.
But so far that hasn't been what's delaying us. It's finalizing the plans, getting the contractor's final numbers. We're meeting with the insurance adjuster Thursday. Thursday. Now that Pat Delgavio has prepared a nice reconciliation of the contractor's costs and the insurance, the original adjuster's estimate, and we came up with justification for asking for about $40,000 more than his estimate. So we've got to meet with him about that, and hopefully we'll work out the settlement with the insurance adjuster. We think it's going to be on the order of 120, I don't know.
Close to that, yeah.
Yeah, 120, 140, something like that. Got our fingers crossed.
Cool.
So we're meeting with him to talk about
The
that.
total insurance,
Yeah.
that's it?
Well, it was basically one little room, and smoke throughout the building.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he has a
the
very
Smoke and the data recovery.
he has a very
and-
detailed estimate. No, well, and they've already paid for $63,000 worth of costs of getting us out, renting the trailers.
Okay, all right.
All
right,
that stuff.
okay.
So $80,000, about $82,000 was the estimate for cleanup and construction in the most affected area, the back area. And there's a lot of construction and replacement of flooring. It's carpeting and painting the entire building. It's, cleaning the ceiling and stuff like, so there's 80,000 worth of construction. There's about 23,000 worth of cleaning costs. And then we think there should be about a $40,000 adjustment of the construction cost based on what the contractor is actually charging us, having sorted out, fire-related construction from the rest of what we're doing in there. So, best case, what's that add up to, 140? Plus, they'll be covering some of the costs of moving back in and that kind of stuff.
Good, thanks.
Okay, let's go to 1. Did I answer your question?
That was fantastic.
Let's go to 1.
Except you didn't tell me when we get to sit in that meeting.
Yeah.
We're talking August here, right?
Yeah, I think we're talking August. If we could have, it would be great if we could have our September meeting in the new room.
Yeah, August would be even better.
August would be aggressive, optimistic.
Yes. Let's
Okay.
live in the optimistic side of life.
1, SFPUC drought conditions update. We listen to San Francisco and we look at the news and we don't know. Steve Ritchie came and talked about how the picture is improving. And I think at the staff level, we think, to the best we can guess, that they're pretty comfortable with where they are in the voluntary 10%. And they're taking water out of the water bank. They're doing these projects for Cherry and Eleanor that allow them to take water out of there. They've got, at the staff level, they've got all kinds of plans. And they're certainly not pushing for mandatory. On the other hand, you've got you can almost any day you look in the Chronicle or turn on the television, you can hear news reports about how nobody has gone to mandatory and there are none of the agencies in which the customers are meeting the reduction percentages, the voluntary reduction percentages that their agencies have called for. So you've got this sort of drumbeat of pressure from the media and politically with Jerry Brown's, save 20%. That's also in the mix. And the SFPUC is a political body, and they're listening to the staff and looking at the news. So, it's like, well, who knows what they're going to do, right? I mean, we talk about this every day. Kathleen and I are kind of on different. Kathleen's more optimistic than I am. I'm kind of the Chicken Little saying, I think the mandatory rationing train is kind of on the track, but the staff wouldn't say that. Now, one thing I asked Steve Ritchie, well, if you do this, I mean, if the commission, they keep saying, well, we're going to review it June 15th. Well, I don't know what that means. Does that mean, well, the staff, from what we've heard, it doesn't seem like the staff would come to the commission and recommend, stepping up the request to, well, I guess you wouldn't call it a request then, but going to mandatory or increasing from 10 to 20. Just don't sense that that's there. But we don't know. But he did say that if they do it, we'll have, based on how much time it takes to sort of crank up the machinery to do all the allocations and stuff, we'll have 2 or 3 months at least before the allocation goes into effect. So, we will be in panic mode, getting ready for that and basically trying to get some of our customers ready. I was out yesterday. You didn't get the production report today, but it's about the same as last week. Our customers are using 17 million gallons a week, so we're using water at the rate of 2.5 million gallons a day, including Skylon. So, you know, that's a pretty, given that our allocation, if PUC went to 20% mandatory, would be about 1.3 million gallons per day on an, you know, that's a year-round average. It's not peak time, but it's a lot less water than we're using now. That said, you know, Kathleen has looked at our consumption in several different ways, and it looks like we're significantly lower than we were in the same time last year. So, you know, we would say that our customers have, at least our residential customers, have responded to our request for 10% voluntary reduction. I don't see how anybody could not be conscious of the drought and the need to conserve water based on how the media is treating it right now. I think our commercial customers, Skylon, you know, they don't have a reason really to cut back, to cut into their business right now, and I think we understand that, that's appropriate. So, what'll happen, we don't know, but we spend quite a bit of time thinking about it and getting ready for various pieces of it. The other thing I wanted to mention was the grand jury report. I sent that out to you, and we haven't really spent too much time on it. Just wanted to let you know that we're thinking about it. We are required to respond by August 18th. So what I have in mind is bringing it back for discussion at the July meeting with some suggestions about how we ought to respond, get the board's input, and then we'll have, based on the board's input, we'll prepare a final response for approval at the August meeting. We're required to respond with a response that the board has approved. So just wanted to let you know that will be coming. If you had any questions about that, we could briefly talk about that now, but I will bring it back in July. Next step?
Okay. Waiting.
You wanted the drum roll or what?
No, I just wanted somebody to say, okay, it's Joe's turn.
Joe, it's your turn if you'd like. But first, you have to tell us what the character is.
I'm sorry?
The character, is there a character involved? Are you?
Because of the, yeah, I'm gonna be in the Coastal Repertory Theater's Oliver this summer.
And what's?
August, yeah, playing the part of Fagin. So
Awesome.
I'm terrified of him. Terrified.
Working on your English accent?
Actually, he was Jewish, so I don't have to worry about that too much. Thought I'd put it out there.
That means it'd have to be an English Jewish accent?
Yeah.
That's frankly sounding harder than
It's part of the challenge of the role.
Yiddish British.
Yes, the free
Yiddish
Yiddish.
British.
Next up, fiddler.
Yeah, no. In any event, here at the district, the big thing is El Granada Tank 2. We're coming to the end of that project. All the mechanical work on the tank is complete. It's painted, it's lined, and it's full. We filled it up, and we are presently in the 5-day soak test period where we see if there any volatiles have leached out. We've had very good luck with that. The contractor that we're using has very good luck with that aspect of it based on the coatings that were used. We expect the results. We're going to collect our sample on Monday. We'll expect our results probably by Thursday is a good estimate. And we could put the tank online at that point. And then at that point, the contractors will be removing the temporary tank, which has served us very faithfully. I'm very pleased with how that's worked out. He'll be removing that tank and improving the driveway and the fence. We are realigning the fence to be closer to what the actual property lines are. We have opted out of a fence on the ocean neighbor's side. He had made some improvements there. We are going to install a small retaining wall on that side after this project is over. We opted not to have any change orders on this project. We will do that in-house, as well as paint and tidy up the pump house.
And sorry, Joe, I just want to interject that our fence strategy developed with some very helpful input from Director Coverdale, who was nice enough to come up to the site and lend his expertise.
Thank you, thanks. My
So-
pleasure.
So we expect the tank back online next week, and the paving will be occurring on the first week of July. And the fence should be in by then. Then we hope to have the end of the project by the end of July.
So the tank is currently full,
Yes,
and we're testing the water.
yes.
If it
Well,
passes,
soaking.
does that water get introduced into the system, or does
Yes,
it get
it's good
flushed? It
water.
does, okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't get flushed out, or?
No, it'll be good water. Yes.
How many gallon tank is the temporary tank?
13,000, I believe.
Hmm.
And like I said, it has worked well.
What did a tank like that cost, 13,000 gallons? Any guess?
No, I can't give you a good guess.
Is it in the $5 a gallon range, like 65 grand? Or the $1?
I don't think it'd be that much.
Yeah.
No,
we own it, I think.
Oh, we own it or rent it?
We own that tank.
Yeah.
We own it.
Yeah, because we're going to be using that for our Al's tank refurbishing project.
Nice.
And then we were gonna use it for another project.
Well, we're gonna
too.
put it where Hazen's redwood tank.
Well, that's a thought, but there's some risks involved with that.
And what's this?
Yeah, the project up there looked great. Have you guys, anybody seen the Argonaut project?
Oh, yeah, I go by it every day.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, it's a great
Beautiful.
project, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Looks good.
greatly improved. That was my first days here at the district. When I looked at that site, I was taken aback a little bit. I was a little worried about the condition of the tank, so this is a nice little milestone.
What's the size of that tank?
That tank is, what is that, 250,000 gallons?
Sounds great.
The
Not
contractor
big
is who?
That is a Paso Robles tank.
And we've been happy then, or?
Very happy with them. They did the Half Moon Bay Tank 1 also.
Good.
And if there's anything else in my report that you have any questions on, I'd be glad to answer, yes.
Can you talk about the Stone Dam thing with the blow-off deals and the?
Yes.
I don't mean to
We
be
were,
so,
we
you know,
consistently, as I believe I said it last month, that we ran consistently at 1,600 overnight, or 1,500, and it seems that there's still some type of a surge going on. Now, whether it's our influent valve searching or what, but what it's doing with that surge is causing air to be introduced into that pipe. We're not exactly sure if it's us or if it's what the improvements that SFPUC made a couple of months ago. Since our demand was high and we really couldn't be messing around with it, we switched to Crystal Springs.
Right.
But once our demand becomes lower again, we'll have a chance to investigate that further and solve the issue. It may be something as simple as adjusting the control system for the inflow valve, but I don't know.
And what do you mean by surge? Do you mean like there's a rush
Well,
of
if
water and
yes.
a pause? Or?
Yes. If the influent valve is searching, opening and closing, it changes. You start getting these little surges in the water. It backs up and comes in, and that may be. And since our head at the improvements on the SFPUC side, even though we've gained a foot and a foot,
Like 3.
3 feet, it still may not be enough. but it's the best we could get. So we're hoping that if we find what's causing this, so there's something oscillating somewhere, we gotta find it. And we will find it, and we will solve it.
And is it, when, in this surge process, is our intake low enough in the water, or do we actually suck air?
Well, air is being introduced somehow, whether it's through the air valves or not, we're uncertain.
Oh, I see, huh. And where it terminates into the Pilarcitos, or where it terminates into Stone Dam, does it just go straight in, or is it aiming down, or is it?
Our intake actually is a pipe that comes out laterally from the, what they call the aqueduct, which comes from Stone Dam.
Ah.
And that I believe is where the problem lies.
So it's really not underwater?
No, it is underwater.
But the aqueduct, how deep is that?
The aqueduct, I don't know, how deep is the aqueduct? It's like 4 or 5 feet?
Yeah, so it's shallow.
Yeah, it's pretty shallow.
Yeah.
But what we've done
It's
is,
a conduit.
they have shut,
Yeah.
they've shut the valve at the end of that pipe to raise the water basically all the way back up to the level that it comes out of Stone Dams. We've taken advantage of all the head that's available in the system.
Mhm.
And that raises the level above the highest point in our pipe by about 3 feet. Where before we couldn't get more than an inch or two, or even it was even a little bit negative sometimes. So.
But we can't
think it
really
should work.
lay up and over into it, right? How many feet is it from where we capture to actually the lake?
Oh, it's
It's
half a
still
mile. I mean, it's
a lot more.
yeah,
That's a
I see.
while, yeah.
couple thousand feet.
Yeah, and that's all their aqueduct.
Cool. Yeah, I just haven't, it's been a long time since I was up there. I just wondered what our connection looked like, just for curiosity's sake.
No, it's a pipe that comes out near the bottom, the side of that, comes out directly out of the side of that aqueduct.
It's hard to imagine that there's a time when that would be, that our intake would be somehow out of the water.
Well, just, what I wonder is that, we probably have a pretty big demand at the point at which we turn on the pumps or whatever. I mean, part of it's gravity, but part of it's pump driven, right? And that's what I was
It's all
wondering.
gravity.
It's all gravity.
Oh, it is, there's no,
Yeah, the problem may just be, I mean,
interesting.
I'm convinced that it's on our intake valve,
Wow.
because it's causing the plant rate to fluctuate 100 gallons per minute.
Wow,
So, and that's significant,
wow,
because all of the chemical systems are controlled by that plant rate.
wow.
So it kind of throws things off a little bit, and we don't like to operate that way. We want it to be nice and steady and even.
Yeah, it's just fun to think about the issue,
Yeah.
That's.
Well, we will have it resolved.
Is it possible to get to go up and see that? I know I've never seen it. I
Sure.
remember just saying you had seen it.
Oh, you gotta go look at all
Yeah,
this stuff.
I'd love to go see the
Yeah, sure.
connection.
You gotta
Take you on the
you guys-
mountain lion hike.
Have you
Yeah,
guys been on
yeah.
a cruise? You been back to Pilarcitos?
Yeah, but now that I have a little bit more education on all this, I'd like to do it again.
Oh, it's
Make
so,
more sense
it's
to me.
so incredible.
Sure, we can, we're happy to go up there for anyone who wants.
Well, I know you need to
Direct ones too.
give
Yeah, do it.
SFPC
Yeah.
heads up
It's-
notice so
oh,
they
yeah.
can run
that's no problem.
fingerprints.
Yeah, it's-
The crew did spot a mountain lion there, the last time they went up there.
I've been eating Fritos recently, and those have mountain lions like organic and free range, and I'm
Well,
eating
that's a matter of not outrunning the lion, but outrunning who you're with.
I'll be happy to go with you anytime.
It's amazing a joke that it can still get laughs.
Fortunately, Canadians are pretty slow, so.
Okay, anything else?
Our water resources report, Kathleen.
Don't miss them on stage.
I'll be quick. So attached to my staff report is an updated outreach list that the board requested, so I am trying to keep that up to date. Dave did a very good job giving you the water supply update, so I'll skip that unless you had any specific questions. And the other item, I just wanted to update on what we plan to do in the next fiscal year for our water conservation or water efficiency programs. And I kind of broke it down into the programs that we participate in that are with BOSCA, and we actually signed an agreement with them that we're going to participate in these programs. So those are listed. Although we might, on the high efficiency closed washer rebate, we might end that in December. We only might participate in 6 months because PG&E might change the rules. So depending on what PG&E does will depend whether we continue to participate or not in that. And then the other are district programs, which we run all by ourselves independently. And so if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Please.
I wanted to compliment you on the advertisement in the back of the Half and Bay Review magazine. I thought that was really great, and it was nice that it was a full page. And
The irrigation one, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, how
I
to
saw the
conserve
one
water.
on how to conserve water. It was like 10 things you can do to conserve water. Is that the same one, or is that different?
I think that's, I think the one you're thinking of might be different.
Okay.
Well, we had one that was overall how to save 10% with ideas like shower heads.
Yeah, that's the one I saw.
Yeah, it's a
And then-
full page on the back sheet.
Right, and then
That's the one.
starting in June, the message is changing to irrigation. So in June, in the paper and the monthly magazine will be the irrigation, landscaping, what you can do outdoors to save water. Where the other one was mostly indoors.
Yeah, it's great. Great place.
Yeah, that was from Save Our Water campaign, which Aqua and the Department of Water Resources works on. So they provide the graphics, and we can kind of modify them and put our logo on. But it's very helpful for small agencies like us that we can take something already prepared and just tweak it a little bit. It really helps us out a lot. So.
That's great. Really great.
Do we have any director agenda items or requests for future meetings?
I only have a question. Have you figured out what the time's gonna be for the special meeting coming?
7 p.m., June 24th. And I may, unless anybody has an objection you'd like to express now, schedule a closed session at the beginning of that meeting, since we'll have everybody together to talk about labor negotiations.
I will not be here.
Almost everybody.
Well, do you trust us?
Yeah, I trust you guys.
Do you want to pick a different time? Would you be happier with it?
Different place, we come over to Austria.
Yeah, you guys can visit me. No, please proceed, I trust you all.
Credit cards. I'd like to move that we respectfully adjourn the meeting.
Can I ask one question? I remember we held an earlier meeting to allow people, and I can't remember why. Does anybody remember last year's budget? Did we have an earlier meeting?
Oh, there was somebody complained that they couldn't get there for the comments.
So we held a later meeting?
I thought it was an earlier meeting.
Okay, all right. Well, 7 o'clock seems good because people could come having finished work, and so that seems like a reasonable time. I just remembered our having a question about the time last year, so that's why I was asking. But that's all I can remember. All right, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, man, have fun. When you going?